Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Unleashing Potentials podcast. So, joining me today is Judy, all the way from Playa del Carmen, Mexico. Welcome.
Hi, Bernadette. So good to be here and to talk about something that is so close to my heart. Potentials. Love it.
Yes, me too. I'm so excited to have you because I can tell that we both have already unleashed our potentials.
I'm on the journey. Yes, on the journey. And I always want it to be an evolving journey,
Mhm,
ever evolving, ever expanding.
Awesome. I can't wait to hear more. To start, Judy, can you tell us more about you, your work, and what you do? Can you tell us more about you, your work, and what you do?
So, what I do and what my work is very much intertwined. So I dedicate my life to connecting to communicating with and creating from infinite being. That's what I spend a lot of my life doing, and that's what I do with clients
Mhm.
is clear the way, clear the channel for that to be their reality, for their for their experience of life. And that's what allows us to live an iconic life, which is a life of the most extraordinary potentiality, the most extraordinary possibilities, open in no sense, in that sort of all space of life. That's where I spend my time, and that is how where the journey that I take clients on.
hmm hmm That's amazing. So what got you into doing the work that you're doing?
A crazy experience I had when I was about
I
15.
love crazy.
Yes, me too. Crazy experience I had when I was about 15. So if it's okay with you, can I take you on a journey back
Yes, please.
a,
Yes,
a
please.
year or two?
Take me back as far as
All
you.
right, it's a few decades. All
Yes, go ahead.
right, so the extraordinary experience was a supernatural experience, okay, and it was beautiful and it was exquisite, but the environment in which it took place was not. So a sort of alert to listeners, I'm going to go to a dark place in order to put context
Yeah.
into the experience. But trust me, this is a story of love. It's a story of beauty. It's a story of prosperity and adventure. So bear with me.
Mm-hmm.
So from very young age, when I was around about 3 or so, I was locked up and tortured and abused in the most horrendous and horrific ways. Um, I was shot, stabbed, used as a slave, lived in poverty, and days would go by without food, and I, resorted to eating tin dog food, and it was just the most abominable experience.
Mm-hmm.
And there were times when I felt like just a piece of meat, and I only lived because my heart was beating. That was it. And I would go to sleep at night, and I would beg my heart to stop beating so I didn't have to wake up in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and um, Isolated from society, isolated from the world, not going to school, nothing. Just all I knew was torture. I didn't even have my own clothes. I had old men's clothes that I was wearing as I grew up from infant
Mm-hmm.
to adult.
Mm-hmm.
And one particular night was very bad. And I had made pregnant several times as well, brutal terminations.
Mm-hmm.
And one night was particularly bad, and it was brutal, and the torture went on for like 12 hours. And I remember it was a November morning, walking into the bathroom, and it was November, it was in Dublin, the clouds were grey, it was drizzly rain, it was chilly, it was yucky Dublin Monday, yucky Dublin morning. I can't
Mm-hmm.
remember what day of the week. And I walked into the bathroom and I was just flat, just nothing, just, it was just, I was nothing. I was nothing. I was no one. I was nothing. Walked over to the hand basin, and I remember looking at myself in the mirror, and it almost like being the first time I saw myself. I'm sure I saw myself plenty, but this particular occasion, it was almost like I noticed me,
Mm-hmm.
and I saw and I looked beyond my, the bruises on my face, the blood on my lips, and the the old tattered nightie I was wearing. And I like looked and leaned in and was looking into my eyes. And it was almost like something reached out and into me and grabbed something in my solar plexus. And
Mm,
for many years, I called it my something. I didn't know, I wasn't able to articulate what that experience was.
mhm,
But that was my something. Turns out that was my essence, my soul, my spirit.
mhm, mhm,
And as I grabbed it, I was transported out of my body outside. There I was standing outside barefoot in the rain and the cold and the wind, but yet I felt the most beautiful sensation. I was not cold, I was not fearful. It was just the most exquisitely beautiful sensation of expansiveness.
mhm,
And I just remember looking around and feeling one with everything. There was a oneness, there was no separation. It was just everything just blended. There was
mhm,
a calm serenity about the whole experience. And I'm feeling one with the trees, one with the birds, one with the rain on the windows. And I could smell grass or something being cut, grass being cut or had been cut in the distance. And I could smell that grass cut smell. And I felt one with everything. It was just the most exquisite experience of oneness. And then the next moment, I remember feeling this powerful, extraordinarily potent sensation. And the only way I could ever put words on it is like, imagine being wrapped in 1,000 of the most beautifully soft cashmere blankets. It was just the most encompassing experience. And I couldn't understand what this feeling was. I'd never felt anything like it. And it then came through me, then awareness came through me that this was love, but not just any love, but the love of um, the love of divinity. It went beyond humanity, and
mm,
it was just the most divine love. And in that moment of feeling this and basking in that sensation, I saw me. I looked into the bathroom window, um, and I saw me. And in that moment, I healed for everything I had been through, everything I was going through, and everything I was yet to go through. In that moment, I
mhm,
healed and came back into my body soon after, shortly after that. It felt like it lasted for hours, but it probably was just moments.
mhm,
Came back into my body. And I remember looking at myself, and what I saw looking back at me was a very different girl. I was about 15 years old at this point, a very different girl that was looking back.
mhm,
And I knew in that moment that I would escape. And I knew also in that moment that whilst in that, what I call that space I was in was the primordial field of creation. It was in the field of pure potentiality, the field of everything. And I remember I was able to see all the infinite ways in which my life would and could unfold. And the best way I can explain what happened when I came back into body was knowing that I had planted 3 seeds. It's the best way I can explain it now, looking back on it. And the 3 seeds that I planted of potential was love, prosperity. I used the word luxury at the time in my mind because I didn't know the word prosperity. So I used the word, I used love, prosperity, and adventure. I knew that was going to be my life. I knew it. It was completely illogical. How was it? I was flatlining. I was I was used as a piece of meat. How would it be possible to go from where I am to that? But I had no doubt, none whatsoever. I then, a very interesting thing happened then as I walked away from the mirror to walk out to the bathroom. By the time I walked out the bathroom, I knew I would escape. But I also knew that when I escaped, I would get a job in one of these areas. And this is going to be funny when you take it in context
mhm,
of this deeply spiritual experience I just had. I knew I would escape and I would get a job in shipping, merchant banking, oil and gas, or stockbroking. And I had no idea what they were. None. Like
wow,
stockbroking. what is stockbroking? I had no clue what it was.
Yeah.
Like merchant banking, I'd heard of banks, but what's a merchant bank? Oh, Merchant of Venice banking? What is that? You
Mhm.
know, like I had no idea what it was, but I knew that is what I would do. And I had no doubt I would escape, but I had no clue when. And
Mhm.
here's the interesting thing, and this is a massive thing when we're talking about potentiality. We block potentiality because of our misconception around time.
Mhm.
Potentiality has its own time. It's all in the now. And the more we are in the now, the more it's always now. And the more we create in the now, and we bring that creation to the next moment, the next moment, the next moment. And that's when exponential time collapses and we increase space.
Mhm.
And so I had no stress or anxiety about when. I just knew, never doubted it. It took another 6 years. And I did escape in the middle of the night. I was in my early 20s.
Mhm.
And then, sure, during the following 6 years or so, that sort of torture still went on, the horrors still went on. But I was a different person because I realized walking out that bathroom that you could hurt my mortal body, but no one and nothing can touch my soul and my spirit, as I called it then, my something.
Mhm.
So no matter what I went through, that something gave me such essence, such joy, such inner peace, such awareness and expansiveness that no matter what was happening in my environment around me or to my body, it could not deter me, it could not shift me out of that sense of inner joy, inner bliss.
Mhm.
That is everything when we're talking about unleashing potential.
Mhm.
It's no matter what's going on in the mortal body, no matter what's going on in your environment, that when you can stay in your pure essence, devoted to your authentic truth,
Mhm.
that's when everything happens. Now,
Mhm.
I spent the next 6 years preparing myself for escape because I knew I would escape. It was not a hopeless scenario. It was not, I don't know. I knew. So I was preparing myself. I taught myself to read and write. I taught myself to play violin. I taught myself to paint. I taught myself to knit with no internet, no YouTube, no multiple channels. I was living in Ireland in the early 90s, for heaven's sake. We had 2 TV channels. That was it. No internet.
Mhm.
How? Because because I have come to realize that there are 3 things that are our greatest gifts. One, we are one with it all. We are divine, not as human beings, but
Mhm.
as infinite beings. When we connect to our infinite being, our higher self, we connect to our true essence. We are one with everything. We are the seeds of creation. They are within us.
Mhm.
Therefore, when we accept and integrate and embody that, therefore, it's logical, not a jump. It's logical that we have access to all knowledge, all wisdom, all intelligence that
Mhm.
ever has been, ever is, and ever will be. We have access to that. And my life showed me that because I taught myself all these things, taught myself about money, about finance, about business, everything I could read about it, I did.
Mhm.
I learned all about Adam Smith, the father of modern day economics, the whole thing. I learned as much as I could because I knew I was going to escape. And I knew I was going to get one of those 4 weird jobs, whatever it was.
Mhm.
No idea, but
Mhm.
just trust. I had this unbreakable trust and faith in me.
Mhm.
This is the important thing, in me, in my infinite being, in my journey.
Mhm.
I did escape in
Yeah.
the middle of the night.
Mhm.
And I ended up in London, by the time escaping with nothing, not knowing no one, nothing, having nothing. I left literally with a plastic bag with a copy of Wuthering Heights, being a romantic, and a painting I did of my cat, and I think 1 or 2 tops or something like that. That
Mhm.
was it. And practically, and no money. And
Mhm.
I got myself to London
Mhm.
within a day. I
Mhm.
landed in London on a Friday night. I'll never forget that flight from Dublin to London. It's only 50 minutes. It was a full moon,
Mhm.
and it felt as if I could reach out and touch the moon. It felt like we were flying so close to the moon. Although it's a 50-minute flight, it felt like it was 2, 3 hours. It was just extraordinary. That feeling of potentiality in the sky. It was just extraordinary. I landed on a Friday night. It was raining. It was November again. And again, I knew no one, knew nothing. Within a week, I had 2 job offers. The one was in shipping, and the other was a trading accountant on an oil and gas trading floor, earning almost 6 figures in the early 90s during the Thatcher recession. It was unheard of. People say to me, how did you know what to do? How did you know? I don't know. I don't know.
Mhm.
All I knew is I rocked up, I answered the questions, I turned up as me, I trusted, I allowed the information to come through me, and I was employed. And I got to my first day and I turned on the computer. I had no idea, I'd never even seen a computer.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
Is why I know the power that we are when we connect to infinite being, when we connect to the true essence of who we are.
Mhm.
This body is what I call, is part of what I call the trilogy of being. It is body, being, and planet. It is here to experience the full projection of our soul.
Mhm.
That is what it's here. It's a vessel, it's a tool, but a very valuable and a very um, beautiful tool.
Mhm.
We are anatomically designed to connect to, communicate with, and create from infinite being using
Mhm.
body,
Mhm.
not our head.
Yeah.
Head's not your friend. The head is the servant, but we've promoted head and mind to that of master. It is not equipped for that. It will screw us up.
Mhm.
So when we activate our body, being, and planet, communicate with, connect to, and create from infinite being, is when we unleash infinite potentiality.
Mhm. Mhm.
I am living a life that it defies the odds, and I have from the moment I left, the
Mhm.
moment I escaped.
Mhm. Mhm. Wow, what an incredible, powerful story. We have a lot to get into. Thank you so much for sharing that. And what a strong woman you are. There's so much fire, light, and passion, and I love it all. Thank you so much. If
No,
you don't
pleasure.
mind, yeah, thank you. We're gonna go back to the beginning. Thank you for sharing what you described, and I'm sorry you had to go through that. No one deserved to go through that at all. And I can tell you've healed from that, and you're doing the work, and you're helping others heal with what you've been through. That's the power of storytelling of our trauma and pain, how we can flip it,
Yes.
make a good thing out of it. So thank you. Um, so who was it that did all those things to you, if you don't mind me asking? We don't have to go too deep into it. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah,
I don't mind. I don't mind at all talking about it. It's just that the who doesn't really matter,
yeah.
right? But the who, one was my father, but there were others as well.
Okay.
And I years later, I went back. I escaped. I went to England, and I eventually ended up living in South Africa. And I went back to Ireland, and I reported him, and I asked the judge for it to be held at a camera, so it was public. It was the first time anywhere in the world that had happened. And he got 54 years
Yeah.
for what he did. But it's the
Mm.
worst case that ever came before the courts of Ireland.
Mhm.
Now, and here's an interesting thing is that, and this is where the work of understanding and unleashing
Sorry, I'm
potentials.
grabbing a pillow. It's for my back because I have back pain.
So
Yeah.
this is
Okay.
where unleashing potentials is so important, because when you to unleash potentials,
Mhm.
you you have to move out of survival.
Yeah.
It's our mind that keeps us in survival. And
Mhm.
when we connect to infinite being, we see the truth for as it is. We see the expansiveness of everything, and not the convergent experience that we experience moment to moment as a human in our head.
Mhm.
Before he died a few years after being sentenced to 54 years. I got a phone call to say he'd been moved to a hospice, and I knew I needed to go and see him. I just knew it. This is sensei. I am guided 100% by infinite being, and infinite being says, "Go to Ireland." I go to Ireland to go and see him. I don't question. I've learned not to question, because everything reveals itself in perfect time.
Mhm. Mhm.
And went to Ireland. And at first, I was going to go with my husband. And Tiny and I have been together for 24 years now. the most blissful relationship, the most awesome partnership. We work together, we're best friends, we're lovers, we're husband and wife. Again, that is unpredictable. That's not normal for someone who's been through what I've been through. I went back and I was going to go and see him with Tiny, my husband.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't imagine going in on my own. But when we got there, he refused to see Tiny and would only see me on my own.
Mm-hmm.
So, gosh, I thought, oh my gosh, this was not part of the plan. How do I do this? Because
Mm-hmm.
the human in me was like, oh, not sure I like this. But I was told, go, do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I walked in and I had no idea what to expect. And I had no idea how I was going to respond or what was going to come out. And I walked in and he stood up, I closed the door behind me. And the first words out of my mouth, and I'm going to warn people, you're not necessarily going to be in a place where this is going to be obvious for you in terms of understanding how, but trust me, it's been a journey to get to this point for me, and it will be for anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And what I said was, thank you, Dad, I love you. And I put my arms around him. My soul spoke to his soul in that instance. It wasn't about human to human. It was my greater soul speaking to his soul. Now it landed for him in his human, okay? But for me, it was my soul speaking to his soul because what he gave me was extraordinary. He gave me something that he sacrificed his life. Yes, I had to go through a lot of SHIT, right? I did. But he sacrificed, and the life that I have lived and continue to live and will live and create, I would not, if I hadn't have had those experiences. I wouldn't have learned the power of connecting to infinite being, because at that point in time when I connected to infinite being, I'd given up everything. I had surrendered totally, and I said, what?
Yeah.
I completely surrendered. And that's when Source came and gave me that incredible experience.
That's fascinating. I believe in everything you just shared, Source, and just infinity, how we are more. I don't know why or which gifts I have, but I sometimes connect to what people here call the other side. My adoptive mom passed, I could feel her touching my feet, and I've heard them in my head or ears, and I've seen the light. I wasn't dead, but I've seen the light, and I've had a taste of what you're talking about. And you're not crazy for choosing the decisions that you made, because once you've seen, you've witnessed, you've felt and touched, everything in this 3D world becomes nothing. It dissolves all the trauma, all the pain. And for some people, they may not understand it because they haven't felt it. They're not awakened to feel what you felt, what I've felt as well. It's beautiful, isn't it? It's hard. That's why it's hard to describe.
It is hard to describe, and it is beautiful because nothing's ever the same again. You cannot see anything the same again. But here's a really, really important part to it. We are all anatomically designed to have those experiences. Then you do not have to go to the end of the road. You do not have to be on the cliff edge. You do not have to be at the end of a rope. You do not have to be on death's door. You do not have to be in all those awful places, traumatic places, to have it. We can create it ourselves at will.
We can, yeah. Would you describe your experience as a outer body experience? How would you describe it? I have outer body experience as I'm talking to you, but I'm still here. Yeah, how would you describe that?
I have, over the years, my awareness around that experience has evolved. You know, and a few years ago, I would have definitely said an out of body experience, a transcendent experience. The way I explain it now is I call it a supernatural experience, because out of body implies separation for me. This is how it works for me. My awareness doesn't make it right or wrong. Or doesn't make anyone else right or wrong what their feelings are about it. But for me, it's a oneness, an expansion of oneness. So I prefer, the way I see it and feel it is it's almost like going up to extremely high levels of frequency beyond the speed of light. Speed of light is that E equals mc squared. It's the bit with the barrier between energy and matter. So I go beyond that into the fourth dimension, fifth dimension, and I keep going beyond that. And the higher the frequency we go to, the closer to source we get. So I see it as more of me expanded on higher levels of frequency. So it's going from this 3D world frequency, which we all oscillate in various levels of frequency, from like low density where we're living in survival, anger, fear, shame, guilt, to the more elevated of acceptance or free will, and that, you know, they're the more elevated frequencies of matter. And then we go into the more supernatural, which is where we increase beyond the speed of light into fourth dimension, fifth dimension, and on and on and on up to towards source. And we have, you know, for me, I've had a number of experiences where I've gone to varying different frequencies towards source. And I know I haven't gone there yet 100% to completely connected with source, because in that moment when you do that, you instantaneously collapse cause and effect, thought and experience, and that which you think is created in material form straight away. Okay, immediately. I haven't gone quite that far, but I'm getting closer and closer and closer. So the closer I get to that, when I because I can do it at will now, and whenever I do that, what I thought, what I think, what I'm creating in the primordial fields shows up very quickly in matter. So all the time you're doing that, you're collapsing time, or collapsing space rather, not time, you're collapsing space between the thought and the experience, or the cause and the effect. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, it does. It does. I'm glad you brought that up and explained it the way you do, because for some people, it's very hard for them to understand that we're creating our reality.
Yeah.
And that we create our own hell and suffering, or joy and peace. What would you say to those people who, you know, they don't believe it, but it is reality. It's true. It's happening. We do that to ourselves.
Yeah. So one of the things that I sometimes do is I like imagine all the great minds throughout the centuries have talked about matter is energy. And what we used to think as space, like all this space around us, right? The space between me and the screen, and the space between where I'm sitting now and you in Canada, we used to think that was all empty, but it's not. It's all energy, right? So all the empty place that we used to think is energy, right? Everything is energy. We are energy. Matter is energy. This is just energy, right? When you collapse it down to its most finite place, it is energy. And when we match energy with energy, we become one with that. So we see things as hard because we're on the same frequency. When we increase our own frequency, we become more energy. We can merge and change anything and everything. That is what physics is telling us now. That is what science is telling us now. Spirituality has told us that forever. There is for people who are there's an interesting research that was done to prove cute little research that was done in France by a scientist called Epoch, and not so long ago, like probably about 8-9 years ago. And this is like, if you really doubt it, there's too many of these sort of peer-reviewed studies that have been done. There was, when chicks are born, they attach to whoever or whatever is there.
Mhm.
So whenever the chick is born, the hen, they're attached to the mother of the hen, right? And they'll follow the mother around all the time.
Mhm.
If the mother is not there, if it's a dog, that dog becomes the mother. If it's a
Mhm.
cat, the cat will. If it's a pigeon, the pigeon will. Whatever it is, right?
Mhm.
The chicks follow it, right? They adopt whatever's there when they hatch as their mom.
Mhm.
So this scientist took a bunch of chicks. They hatched next to a robot that was randomized to move around randomly this big square box,
Mhm.
random. And the chicks followed it everywhere. And it
Mhm.
was completely 100% random.
Mhm.
They then took the chicks and they put them in the corner of the box. And the chicks, as you can imagine, were missing their mom, which is the robot, little box robot, moving around randomly. And it
Mhm.
continued randomly going.
Mhm.
The chicks desired the closeness to the robot so much, it impacted where the robot went. And it started to move in and around only, still randomized, and it stuck around the corner box where the chicks were. You tell me that we are not energy. When a chick can do that, what can we do as a human,
Mhm.
as an adult human being, as human beings? What
Yeah.
can we do?
Yeah.
Everything is energy.
Mhm.
So when we try and change anything in matter,
Mhm.
like we try and change our financial outcome, our financial situation, we try and change a relationship situation, we try and change
Mhm.
um, our work or business, whatever, and we work harder, faster, and we look for this strategy and that strategy, and we get stuck in the treacle of life, and we get onto that hamster wheel that just spins and spins and spins, creating more and more separation. All we're creating is more survival. We're activating more survival genes, and we're going into homeostasis. We're not in homeostasis. We're into activated state, a stress state, more separation. Because when you're trying to change matter to matter, it can be done to a point, but it takes a lot of time. And it's like, for example, imagine I don't know if you remember these projectors where you had a projector that would shine a light on a screen that would project an image onto a wall,
Yeah.
right? And you
Mhm.
have these like transparent little slides with little images on them.
Mhm.
So imagine we are the projection on the wall. As that's our physical form, is the projection on the wall.
Mhm.
Trying to change anything is like trying to draw over this, trying to change the slide by working, writing on the image on the wall. That's what it's like trying to be matter, changing matter.
Mhm.
When we go back to energy, which is the slide,
Mhm.
and we change the slide in the primordial field or in the field or in the quantum field, in whatever the world, whatever word you want to use for that, with the divine, with whatever it is, when you change in that space the
Mhm.
actual slide, and then it projects a very different image that you've changed.
Mm.
That's when you collapse time, collapse space, not time, you collapse space and you expand time. That's when real change happens. That's when there is unity, there's no separation. That's when there's flow. And with flow always follows prosperity.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, I love that. Thank you. Um, I think so many of us we block our potential. Maybe we block it by what we've been through, could be trauma or our present moment. How can we unblock ourselves to live and thrive the way that we know we should, but we are not doing it at the moment?
The first thing is to acknowledge that we are not conditioned to do that.
Mm.
We are conditioned in this world for whatever reason. That's another whole topic. But for
Mhm.
whatever reason, we're conditioned to believe in limitations. We're
Mhm.
conditioned to be small, and we're conditioned to be limited. One of
Mhm.
my greatest gifts was I was not educated. I educated myself, right? So I didn't get force fed anything. I learned everything as I chose to learn it, and
Mhm.
with the viewpoint that I chose to believe it.
Mhm.
When we take indoctrinated information, it's not authentically ours. we're not showing up in our authenticity. We're not showing up. We are then in other realities. The thing is, here's an interesting point. We are conditioned to live in other realities, not in our own authentic reality.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that is why life is full of suffering. Life is full of hardship. That's why we have to work for a living. That's why we have to earn a living. I mean, what rubbish is that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We are conditioned that work has to be earned, money has to be earned. We have to work for money.
Mm-hmm.
Who the hell ever said work has to be hard?
Yeah. Yeah.
We are here to live our joy. We are here to live bliss. That is why, if you look on the energetic frequency, you look at any frequency, brain frequency, you look at any wave function with any scientist and any research, you will see that the wave effect of the frequency of joy and bliss is very elevated.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very, because it's very, and the result of it being elevated, very elevated, means it's closer to source.
Mm-hmm.
It's away from density, it's away from matter. So therefore, is it not the case that we are designed to live like that? We're designed to live in bliss and joy and love and abundance and prosperity and beauty and fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wholeness, freedom.
Mm-hmm.
We're designed for that.
Mm-hmm.
We are conditioned to live in lack, in survival, in threat,
Mm-hmm.
in anger, in jealousy. We're conditioned to live like that.
Mm-hmm.
And when we're conditioned to live like that, we're not living in our own reality. We are living in other realities. For example, we might be living in the reality of our community, the reality of our religion, the reality of our culture, the reality of our government, whatever it might be.
Mm-hmm.
They're the realities we're living in. And what does that bring up? 100% separation.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't know who you are. People tell me all the time, I don't know what my dreams are. I don't know what I would love to do. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. The greatest threat to infinite being is self-doubt.
Mm. Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
So, what is your bliss?
Mm-hmm.
Find your bliss.
Mm-hmm.
And anything that's stopping you finding your bliss is not authentically you. Let it go. Let it go. Let it go.
Yeah.
Put it down. It is not yours. Not you, not yours. Never was, never will be.
Mm-hmm.
What will be yours is your bliss, your joy. And when it's like, what if I may tell you another little story?
Mm-hmm.
When I escaped, I lived an extraordinary life. Money was the easiest thing for me, still is, right? Money was never an issue for me. It was so easy to make. Love was easy. Adventure was easy. I traveled the world. I've started so many different businesses in many different areas, with none of which I had any education in. I started an environmental company. I started a wine business. I started a property business. I started an online coaching platform, the first ever in the world. I've started so many different projects and businesses and done so many different things because I know with Infinite Being, I have access to all that information. It was wonderful. It was glorious. I've represented South Africa at World Championships of Swimming and Scuba Diving. I've represented companies in paragliding competitions. I'm a competitive pilot, water skier. How was all that possible? Because of Infinite Being. Now, one of the many years ago, like 20 odd years ago, more than that, 25 years ago, I had all the toys, I had all the life, I was living a great life. It was wonderful. It was magic. I was living in Cape Town. It was wonderful. But I didn't understand people. I couldn't understand people. And then people didn't understand me. There was a disconnect, right? They couldn't understand how I could just think an idea and create it and talk about something and do it. You know, I didn't understand the dwelling in the doubt, dwelling in the suffering, dwelling in the, oh, poor me. I couldn't understand it. They couldn't understand how I was so polar at the opposite side. They couldn't understand. So I decided on one day, I made a pact with, with not so nice energies. And I said, okay, I want to be normal. And these energies said, okay, we'll make you normal. We'll make you normal.
Yeah.
And for the next 18 months, oh boy, was I normal. And I looked outside of me for everything. I looked outside of me for belonging, for acceptance, for approval, for for all the things I looked outside of me. And that killed me. I went crazy. I went stark crazy. And I then started taking overdoses. And I took one after another. In the pace of 18 months, I took about 9 or 10, something like that. Crazy number. And like a couple of times, I would be just out of hospital, having had my stomach pumped, in coma, in ICU, come out straight away, another overdose, back into hospital, like on the same day. It was so crazy. Not that I wanted to die, I just wanted this pain to stop, this suffering. It would just stop. I couldn't figure out what was going on. I was institutionalized many times, right? And had therapists and counselors and all the things. And they're telling me, oh no, it's all those experiences you had that you need to come to terms with. You need to and they were trying to take me back to the frickin' story. And I kept telling them, I am healed from all that. That's not a problem. And it wasn't until I took that last overdose. I'll never forget. Actually, it was in April 1999 I took that last overdose, and I was in ICU. There were grumpy nurses all around me, as you can imagine. A perfectly healthy young woman, like in and out like a smarty box. I'll never forget that when I woke up from ICU, I was covered in charcoal, having had my stomach pumped again. And I realized what it was. I'd rather have the whole world against me than my own soul. Because what I was doing was I was living outside of me. I had created the most extraordinary life, but I was in hell inside. And I look back into the time that as a 15, 16, 17-year-old living in hell, but inside I was in heaven. That's when I made the journey back to me, and I've never stopped since. When we live the mortal existence, that's separation, that's hell. When we connect to the truth of who we truly are and live in our joy and our bliss, unapologetically, unashamedly, without excuses, without anything, any form of doubt, guilt, shame, regret, anything, when we connect with that, we become the truth of who we are. And the ripple effect of who we are is how we serve humanity.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, we're made for more, and we're more. We're not God, but we are made in and with the same energy and frequency to access what we want. You're right. We live in lack and fear and all those things that diminishes who we are when we are bigger and better than those things. Can you talk more about iconic life? And what does it mean? What is the key to creating an iconic life?
Iconic life is living your bliss. An iconic life, like for me, that an iconic life is a life of love, prosperity, and adventure. And if you look back over my life for the past 25 years, it has been that. The love of my life is my best friend. And I have a few friends. I don't have a lot of friends. I have a lot of acquaintances and people I know, but I love them dearly. Prosperity is valuable to me. Prosperity in all forms, in all ways, always is important to me, that I live in that for what it means to me. Now, prosperity to me means having good, healthy wealth, financial wealth. But because of the freedom it gives me. I'm not one for clothes and stuff like that, but I'm one for experiences. And I love having the financial resources for those experiences, which feeds my adventure, adventure is really important to me. So like, for example, for the past number of years, Tanya and I have been traveling the world. We spent time in London, we spent time in Italy, and then we spent time in Barbados, and then we're spending time here in Mexico. And that's just in the past 4 years. So, and we keep working, right? We keep doing our work, and we just move. Where we're going to go next, I don't know. We'll see. So that's living an iconic life. Freedom to live your bliss. Now, here's the thing. So many people put that on hold when I get enough money, when I marry the right person, when I get my degree, when I get the promotion, when I get the house, when our children grow up, when they've got varsity degrees, or when they have jobs, when I have my grandkids, when I retire.
Yeah.
Stop all of that. Live your bliss now. Everything else takes care of itself. Live your authentic bliss. Authentic bliss.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. What is the miracle code? It's my first time hearing that, so I'm very excited to hear more. What
We
is
are anatomically designed
it?
to connect, communicate, and create from, from infinite being. The miracle code is harmonizing body, being, and planet to do that.
Mhm,
And we do that by using our body.
mhm,
And that is the process that I take people through, is activating that miracle code, what it is that we are, and what is in it, what we are. And our body is designed to do this. Our spinal cord, our nervous system, our brain, the pineal gland, the thalamus,
mhm,
all parts of those are anatomically designed to connect, communicate, and create from infinite being using our body. And activating that is harmonizing the trilogy of being to
mhm,
doing that. That's the process. That's the miracle code.
mhm,
And it works every time, 100% of the time.
mhm, mhm. Yeah, our bodies are so intelligent, and each
Totally.
yeah, each organ, each specific organ has a specific job and things, and somehow they are harmonious and connect and communicate. And
Yeah.
some of us really do underestimate what our bodies can do until we're
Yes.
sick and we get healed from it. Then we're
Yeah.
like, I didn't know I could overcome this.
Yeah.
How? Right? Those are
Because
the times.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Because we've promoted the mind to master when actually in fact the mind is the servant. The mind is the servant to the body.
Mm-hmm.
We live the other way around,
Mm-hmm.
which is chaos.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Totally.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you talked about the three keys for truth of humanity?
That is the connecting. Oh yes.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
didn't I only got to number two.
Yeah.
So the first one is accepting and embodying and integrating that we are one with everything. Right? We
Yes.
contain the seeds of creation within us,
Mm-hmm.
as infinite beings. The human part of us is mortal, right? But when we connect to our infinite being, we become immortal. And
Mm-hmm.
there's so much, and that's for another whole topic.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much in that alone in terms of what we create and how we are and how we impact the length of our life, the well-being of our life, and all of that. Right. That's the first thing. The second thing is that as when we're connected with infinite being and we know we embody that and we communicate and create from, we have access to all knowledge or wisdom, everything that has been and never is and never will be. Right. And then the third step is that anytime we experience an obstacle, a block, a challenge, a limitation, an attachment to a point of view that's keeping us small, whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
that is our awareness to take the journey back home to our truth, because we find the answer inside of us. But what we do, what we condition to do, what we're taught to do, is to look for a different strategy, look outside of us, look for a different way, look for a silver bullet, look for a knight in shining armor, whatever it is, look out, and work harder, faster, and more, try and be more creative when actually just being is creative enough. All of that's when we start creating more separation. And
Mm-hmm.
yet all that we need is to take the journey back home to us, which is counterintuitive, which is why people find it so hard to do, because we are conditioned
Mm-hmm.
to work harder and faster and look out more and more outside of us. If that didn't work, and make up a whole lot of justifications why that didn't work, and try that, now that'll work, and we get steadfast on that, now that didn't work, so we make up a whole lot of justifications why that didn't work and try something else instead of coming back.
Mm-hmm.
And the answer is
Yeah.
there.
Yeah,
And
I
it's
love that
not
you brought.
easy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
It's
not.
not.
Mm-mm.
I
Mm-mm.
mean, this is what I call the rapids. You're in the rapids until you're not. And it's about staying in the rapids. And I say this to people, you've got to, we have free will. We always have free will. We feel often that we don't, but that's a
Yeah.
false perception. But we do. We always got, nothing can ever take that. Nothing can ever take, no amount of interference, no amount of matrix, no amount of, nothing can take it. We always have it. We often feel like we don't, but we have it. We have free will. So we can decide. We're going to be the master of our destiny or victim of our history.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
make that decision and you have a fear. You have a vision, a dream so greater than your fear. You will stay in those rapids for as long as it takes.
Mm,
It's uncomfortable. It's itchy, scratchy. Every part of the body, being, and planet that you are wants to go back to the known. But it's the known that's going to create a predictable outcome. It's the known that's going to make tomorrow the same as yesterday, next week the same as last week, next year the same as last year.
mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah.
staying in the rapids that will take us, break our addiction to the unknown, to the known, sorry, break our addiction to the known so that we can step into the unknown. And that is where all potentials
Mm-hmm.
exist,
Mm-hmm. I love that.
in the
Uh,
unknown.
yeah. Let's talk about the relationship between money, wealth, and energetics. I'm very excited to hear more.
Money is energy. We are energy, therefore we are money. There's
Mm,
no separation.
mm. Yeah, I
There's no
think,
separation.
yeah, yet so many of us lack it. If we don't lack it, we don't know how to use it.
Because we put money on a pedestal. We're putting everything on money. We put all meaning on money, where money has no meaning. Money is the physical manifestation of spirit. Money in itself has no meaning,
Mhm,
none.
mhm,
You don't change because you got money. You're not a different person because you're just more of when you've got more money. That's all. All
mhm,
right. So money is just pure energy. When we are energy, money is a byproduct of that.
mhm,
When we
mhm,
are blissful in our bliss, money is a byproduct of that. We put money on a pedestal that it's the thing, it's the
mhm,
God, so to speak, right? Even if we don't want to admit that, even if we would have said, well, I'll never put false
mhm,
things on that or whatever, right? Nah, we do. Most people do, because everyone puts money on a pedestal. Everything is done for money. Screw that.
mhm, mhm.
Do it for your bliss.
Yeah, yeah.
Do it for your bliss.
Mhm,
Money follows. It's a fact. It's a scientific fact. It's a physical fact. It's been proven in physics. It's a fact.
mhm,
Right.
mhm,
Don't do it for the money.
mhm,
What could you imagine yourself doing that you cannot imagine people paying you for?
mhm,
Where have you made yourself wrong in life, or where have you been made feel wrong in life?
mhm,
Because that is your gift.
mhm. I love,
That is your gift.
yeah, I love that. Yeah, yeah,
Right? I
yeah.
had a powerful session with clients the other day, and they were all in tears. Everyone was in tears. It was like really potent, right?
Yeah.
As I said that,
Mhm,
where have you made yourself wrong in life, and where have you been made feel wrong?
mhm,
And all of a sudden, the penny dropped for them, and I said, "That's your gift. That's the key to you being authentically you." And
mhm,
that's where you get to be at your most creative. And when you're at your most creative,
mhm.
you're high
Oh
energy.
man, I love that so much, Judy. When you said that, I may not be in tears, but there was a kind of soul connection. It kind of awakened something inside me when you said that.
Yeah,
Because when we are where we're supposed to be, when we've reached our gifts, there's always going to be those who are going to tell us it's wrong. We're wrong. But when we really know
mm,
this is our calling, it's our soul calling. And I
yeah,
love that you help people do that, because so many of us blindly just follow and exist without purpose.
yeah,
Mhm,
totally. And
mhm.
often it happens as children, and it often happens with well-meaning parents as well.
Yes.
So, like for example, you've been told you're too much, you're too energetic, you're too loud, you're too talkative, you're too this, too this, this,
Mm.
and like you don't listen because it's innately you. You can't not do it as a child. You keep doing it, and you keep getting slapped down for it. The
Yeah.
teachers, the peers, the grandparents, the parents, the aunts, the uncles, everyone,
Mm,
not because they're bad, because
mm,
they are also conditioned,
mhm,
right? And so
mhm,
eventually you say, okay, I'll stop.
mm,
And you shut yourself down. You make yourself wrong.
mm,
Why? Why do we do that? And this is going to be electric. Why do we do that? Because we want mommy and daddy's love.
mm.
So that's where fear steps in.
Yeah, yeah. And
So fear, we are authentically who we're meant to be. No one's going to love us, which is why it is wise to embody and integrate. I'd rather have the whole world against me than my own soul. And
mhm.
here's the funny thing: when I say that to people, they recoil because they couldn't imagine living in a world where everyone's against them. For me, bring it on, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
I know that's the core to my bliss. And here's the irony to that:
Mhm,
when you embody that, and that is your core, that is your existence, nobody is against you. You are such a shining light of inspiration, power, greatness, opportunity, potentiality. You inspire others, you lift others, and others want to be with you and around you. And you soar with the eagles and you take others with you on the journey.
I love that. When you're talking about love, something came into mind. We look for love from people who doesn't love themselves, who've never received love, who struggle to give love, when really we are love. It's inside of us. Why do we look for what we have from people who doesn't have it? That's always been my question. As I'm evolving and growing, I'm realizing, holy crap, this is how powerful I am.
Yeah.
How and why did I make myself feel so small to please those people who are in their smallness, right?
Because but that's the way we've been conditioned to live in society. That's the cultural norm. And whenever we try and step above it, or we, with the tall puppy thing, right, we're shut down, we're shut down, we're shut down. So we're not allowed the space and the freedom to be who we authentically are, and to decide in our own autonomous sovereignty who we get to love and sort of avoid. I'm not one to not love. Love is everything. Where is love not? Love is everywhere. Everything is love. And if there's anything in your life that you don't love, it's going to run you. So whatever it is that you have going on in your life that you don't love, the more you love it, the more you bring it back into balance, and the more it will resolve itself. So, everything is love, but yet we're conditioned not. We're conditioned and we're conditioned that you must love the family. The family is the only unit. And so this is all conditioning. No matter what happens, it's the family. You've got to love your mom and dad. The mom and dad got to love the kids. The kids got to love each other. Aunts and uncles, grandparents. It's a conditioned environment that is not natural to individuality.
Yeah.
If we could break that and live a life where we are loved for all of who we are, not because we are doing what we are told.
Yeah, you're right. And it restricts us in so many ways, because imagine a bird or eagle. How do they get around? They fly. I feel that when we can't access who we are, our wings are trapped and we can't really move. And therefore, we don't exercise or walk in our purpose and passion, if that makes sense. I love
Totally.
that you're talking about love. That's
Yeah.
such a big topic, because love, society makes love feel different than it actually is. If you look at love from source, love from within, or around, or from family, those are all different types of love. Is it wrong? I don't know. But love means something different to everyone else, right? What are your thoughts on love? It's such a big topic.
Love for a lot of people is conditioned.
Yeah, yeah.
So as long as you treat me in this way, I will love you. As long as you act in that way, I will love you. And as long as I play this role, I will be loved. That's conditional. That's not love. That's not love. I don't know. I don't have a word for that. That's not love. Okay. Any environment that you cannot show up as your authentic self doesn't mean you ride roughshod over people. It doesn't mean that you act like an idiot, right? That's not what it means, right? You show up in all of who you authentically are. And when you do that, you are love.
Yeah. Yeah.
You are compassion. You are empathy. You are gratitude. You are joy. You are appreciation. You are free and you are whole. That is how you show up, and how you interact with people will be from that point. And you will have compassion for people. You will have empathy for people. You will have love and joy and freedom and fun with people. And you won't judge. There'll be no labeling, no judgment, no locking down. There'll be just be as you are. And there are ways in which we communicate from that place that are very different to whatever this other thing that we call love in this 3D world is. Like, we never communicate in that way. We most often either communicate in this world what I call carefully or carelessly, neither of which is from a place of authentic love. Carefully is where we are putting the other person's needs above our own. So we're putting ourselves down in order to lift the other person up as an act of love. That's not love.
No.
Right? Carelessly is where you're putting yourself and your own needs first and your own self in all ways first and over others. That's not love. Caringly is where you communicate in your values, in your authenticity, caringly valuing the other person. And there's a very different energy. And that is why if people understand communication, if people understood communication, it would almost, two things would happen. Divorce would almost be non-existent, because you can have beautiful relationships with anybody, just about, and with that communication, and lawyers would be just about kaput.
Yeah.
If we mastered the art of pure communication.
Yeah. Oh, relationships are so hard. One of the hardest one is relationships with ourselves, because it's a reflection of what we're seeing. That's not necessarily true or who we are. An example would
resonance.
Yeah.
It's just a resonance. And it's just like, oh, that's interesting. Because we are projecting.
Yeah.
And like when I'm doing that, oh, that's interesting. What am I avoiding in me? What am I not loving in me? That's what we judge. When we judge, we're disowning that part in ourselves.
Yeah,
so it's an invitation.
Yeah, projection.
I love that.
Projection. I love that. Yeah. If you don't mind, let's go back a little bit to touch about authenticity. What does it mean to you, and how have you seen society use it to benefit themselves?
They don't. They don't. Society doesn't encourage authenticity. If they did, they wouldn't have all these influencers and celebrities and all that sort of stuff. There wouldn't be advertising, right?
Yeah.
It encourages inauthenticity. Look at Instagram, right? It does not encourage authenticity.
Yeah. Because that's a word I struggle with, not because I don't know what it means, because I see how people use it to get what they want and to diminish other people's values and core beliefs. What I'm seeing in society, be authentic and please me. As long as you please me, you're looking good. That's how you're supposed to look and feel, versus us going inward within ourselves to see truly what authenticity means. I find when we go back to source, when we go back to the heart and to everything that we are, there are truths there, truths that we may never find in the outside world.
Yep. Oh, there are gifts, our abilities, our channel to communicate with infinite being, being the full authentic projection of our soul. Fulfilling our destiny. It's all there. It's all there. But it gets shut down when we're told to, it's authentic to look like this. It's authentic to behave like that. But which is all destruction, all separation, all illusions,
right.
Confusion, and keeps you limited, keeps you small. We're not designed to believe in ourselves. Sorry, we are designed. We are designed to believe in ourselves. We're not. Society doesn't allow the freedom to believe in ourselves. Yeah. That's accurate.
Yeah. What does freedom mean to you in the line of work that you do?
To do what I want at every moment in time, to do whatever it is that I desire, the freedom to follow my bliss.
Yeah.
The freedom to follow my bliss. I don't work long hours. I work 3 or 4 hours a day. The rest of the time, I'm communicating, connecting to, and creating from infinite being. I am hanging out in the pool with my husband, I'm walking on the beach, I'm paragliding, or I'm scuba diving, or I'm kite surfing, or I'm flying, or whatever it is. I'm doing all the things that I desire. And when the more I live my life of freedom, the more money I make, the more wealth I build, the more opportunities I create, the more synchronicities and opportunities and potentialities.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, that's awesome. How can people connect with you with your work?
On Facebook, Judy V, Attuned to Prosperity,
Mhm.
and I have a group called Attuned to Wealth, and we do things like that every now and again in there. Yeah, I'm a little bit on Instagram. I haven't mastered Instagram yet.
Me neither. Yeah, yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Um, where can people support your work?
Well, if you come and like my page, that's great. I do regular clearing sessions where I clear because my work, because the work, what I do is how I view myself is I'm an alchemist. I'm able to alchemize the energy for people to open them up
Mm,
to communicating and connecting with infinite being so they can create from infinite being. And it's not, I don't work energy to person, I work energy to energy. So I'm working with your
mm,
energy. So, um, and then another thing that I do is I clear a lot of the garbage, energetic garbage in the trilogy of being, which is
mhm,
the body, being, and planet. I clear a lot of the perceptions, the points of views, the attachments, which
mhm,
opens you up to
mhm,
so much possibility
mhm,
and potentiality. Where
mhm,
you felt limited, you now feel expanded. Where you felt lack, you feel abundance. And that's when we start inviting in all of the things in all of the ways.
mm.
Just bliss.
Yeah, I love that. Do you do your work remotely? And how does that work? Is it over Zoom or
Yeah,
how
I do just about all my work remotely. And I'm actually, for the first time ever, going to be actually teaching what I do and how I do it
Mhm.
in person in October in Mexico.
Oh,
So,
that's so exciting.
yeah, I know. I can't wait.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
actually
really
going to be
exciting.
showing people exactly what I do, which is
Mhm,
not something I've done online.
mhm.
I'm I want to I'm going to be doing it in person
Are
in
you
October.
nervous?
No,
Okay, good.
excited, excited,
Okay,
so
that's
excited.
awesome. That's really cool. Do you have any final thoughts that you would like to share with my listeners?
Oh, well, first of all, thank you for the opportunity to share all this. I really
Yes,
appreciate it
yes.
because um, when we understand, when we step into the authentic truth of who we are and connecting to that bliss and that joy, you start to see a greater reason, a greater purpose. You start
Mhm, mhm.
to quote that book, you don't sweat the small stuff like who moved my cheese, for example.
Yeah.
You just, that just does not enter your reality. And
Mhm,
what happens the more you start to experience that, you'll
mhm,
start to notice something will happen where you historically would have reacted in a way and you don't react. And the body sort of wants to go and react. And you're like,
mhm,
because of your energetic frequency where you're at,
mhm,
you start, oh, body doesn't need to do that anymore. That's
mhm,
interesting. So
mhm,
very quick, when you embark on this journey, you start getting evidence that it's working because
mhm,
you will start experiencing more and more of that every single day. And at the end of the day, we know one thing: we have this life. We are alive right here, right now. For how long? We have no idea. But what we do know, we're here right now. Do
mhm.
you want to make the most of it? Or do you want to just do you want to be the hurricane in your life? Or do you just want to be a leaf in the wind of life?
Mm, mm,
That's the decision. That's the choice. And
mhm,
we all have the free will to do that.
mhm,
And I know for me, I'm a hurricane in my life every single day.
mm. I love that. Wow, what an incredible conversation with a powerful woman.
Thank you.
I love your energy. I love that you're following your passion and you're helping people with that. And as you're helping people, you're helping them spread their wings and see who they truly are. It was such an honor to talk to you. to experience your energy and the work that you do. Thank you so much for
Thank
blessing
you.
me with your work. Thank you.
I so appreciate the opportunity to have this chat and to share this. Thank you,
Yes,
Bernadette.
thank
Thank
you
you.
so much.